in our safe little book space we joined with our fabulous publishers, representatives, and our booksellers, and anybody who loves books, but usually it's reps. That's why it's in the title. And we talk about all of the new and forthcoming books that are coming out that our reps want you to know about, and occasionally books that came out a while ago, but that we want you to know about again. Basically, it's book talk from the experts over here, and they are going to they're going to fill you in on everything that's great and coming up. And I'm going to introduce everybody here, and then we'll get going. Joining us today, we have Tom Benton from Penguin. We have Andrea Tetrick from PGW, and we have Brittany Greenway from Macmillan. And we haven't seen any of you guys for a really long time. We were off for a couple of weeks during the height of the holidays, and then you three though were gone before that also. So very happy to see you, and I know you all have a lot that's been building up. We're off the 2026 with a bang here. So let's get right to it. Why don't we? I'll stop the hemming and hawing, and we can just get right to it. Oh, just a reminder that all of the books we talk about today will be we'll link to them in the little chat area over there, so you can go ahead and click on those later and order them at your leisure. Okay, Tom, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so my first book is The Score by C.T. Nguyen. So what you said, we're starting off 2026. I have a fresh batch of books, and I am very excited about all of them. So just prepare yourself. The Score. So this is from Penguin Press. It's a book. It's philosophy from a philosopher, but the most accessible, fun book I can imagine in that category. And when Penguin Press publishes a book of philosophy, it's always terrific. So he's a philosopher at the University of Utah. The book is about, the subtitle says how to stop playing somebody else's game. So he's an expert on the philosophy of games and gaming and data. So he takes us into, I'm not a gamer, but he definitely is. So he talks about the two kinds of gaming that is happening in our lives right now. Because we've gamified our lives in just about we gamify our lives ourselves, and then bureaucracies, institutions around us gamify us. And what he's trying to get at is that, so games embody the spirit of like free play. So there's a freedom you need rules in games, but there's a freedom when you're playing the game, as opposed to the scoring system. So it's all about scoring systems, and scoring systems like grading in schools, or Fitbit steps, university rankings. These things can be, stultifying and oppressive. And it's really about understanding the difference between these two, and understanding when understanding the game that you're playing. I guess that's really what he's getting at. He does it through many different kinds of examples. Like he's a rock climber, and rock climbing will be a theme of some of my books today. So look forward to that. So he's a rock climber, and so that obviously there's a freedom that you feel when you're climbing. Though I've never done this, this is what I understand. But you have to slow down and obviously follow the rules of the rock that you're climbing. And so that's the kind of freedom and rules that he's talking about when you're at your best, when we are at our best. I thought of you, Deborah, when he uses an example of a recipe. You can have a recipe where this is how you do this thing, and you must follow these rules. Or you can have a recipe. He talks about a book that Jacques Pepin and Julia Child did together, where they each have their own takes on a recipe. And so there are rules, but within the rules, there's a freedom at the same time. Those are two different approaches. So this is a really like, it gets your mind like popping, super smart, really accessible. He talks about, so many different examples. One of them he uses is skateboarding. When skateboarding at the beginning, um, it was just about, they call it, I learned this word, steez or steezy, which is style and ease. So that's how you were supposed to be, style and ease. But when it became an Olympic sport, suddenly you have to have metrics, you have to have height, you have to have the number of tricks or whatever they are. So they're measurable things that changes the act of skateboarding, but it's the same thing, right? So I think the most important thing that I took from this book is just about, like I said, understanding the game that you are playing. But it's wildly interesting, fascinating. So the reviews are just hitting. The Washington Post had this amazing review. They say the score is socially attentive, historically literate, imbued with sensual glee. It's exuberantly eclectic, full of passionate digressions into the history of algorithms or the nature of classification systems or the workings of skateboarding competitions. All this would make the book well worth reading, even without its argumentative piece de resistance, its inspired comparison of games and institutional metrics. I also highly recommend, there's a New York Times interview with T that's just fantastic, super fascinating. And they say this is the only book in existence that discusses the game of Twister, the ethics of Aristotle, and the mechanics of bureaucracy. So if you're at all, if you want to have your mind expanded and think about the world in a new way, highly recommend The Score.
Wow, that's a lot for January.
I know.
It's really thinky. I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love a book that will open your ways of thinking a little bit. That's such a great. I love that comparison to the recipe. It's just such a great way of understanding it. Um, as somebody who like maybe doesn't. I'm not a gamer either.
Or climber, probably.
Well, no, not a climber. No,
Yeah.
no. Although I know oddly a lot of climbers. Or people who are like obsessed with rock climbing. But that is sort of like freedom to give yourself to work inside a general framework or rules or rewrite them. And then you understand how people make rules. And that's really another different angle into it. Because rule followers, rule breakers, rule makers, that kind of thing. So it's really interesting. Yeah, it's such an interesting. I haven't read this book, but I'm like completely fascinated. As usual, you've sold me another
Excellent.
book.
Yeah, it's and I will say that when you read about his life, he came to philosophy late. He did a lot of things. Then he decided he wasn't happy in the life that he was living, and so he went to UCLA and got degrees. He also wrote about, he was a food writer, like a freelance food writer for the LA Times. So he's done tons of things that he brings to this world. Also, yo-yos, which I have not thought about yo-yos, but that's another act of where tiny changes, and I think there's been a lot of changes in yo-yos since I played with yo-yos.
Yeah.
Anyway, yo-yos play a role in the book as well. So yo-yos, rock climbing, cooking.
All right. I love it. Thank you, Tom. What a great book to start with. Brittany, what's your first book today?
Okay, so I'm starting off with a children's book, and it is called A Tale of Plagues and Perfumes, and it came out yesterday. And it is a middle grade title that is, I would say, Impossible Creatures meets The Inquisitor's Tale. So it's this middle grade fantasy, and the main character is a girl who has this sort of remarkable sense of smell, and she has to use her sort of superpower of smell to save the world from a deadly plague. So it kind of has the feeling of a medieval adventure book mixed with a little bit of fantasy magic.
Okay, so this is hilarious because I didn't know about this book. I'm just hearing about it for the first time, and I'm really excited because I have like this extraordinary sense of smell, and most of the time it's not great to have that. Right. But I once was once having this conversation with Gabe, and I was like, a superhero with their superpower is a sense of smell. And he was like, that would be awful. Like all you would smell would be like cat pee and and there was some other horrible smell. But I'm really intrigued by it, like all of the things that you could sniff out,
Yeah.
And now someone's done it.
Yeah.
I have to read it. This is great.
Yeah, she kind of keeps her sense of smell a little bit of a secret, and so there are only 2 people that know about it. But then when this sort of plague is on the brink of hitting their city, she has to kind of pick up the fact, or take up the mantle essentially, of having this responsibility that no one else.
That's so cool and very and different and unusual, and I think really appealing to kids who have had to of this age, who have already had to deal with like a couple of plagues, in modern times. So I think are used to like masks and COVID and all of this other stuff. So definitely sort of a great way in by like echoing medieval plague. So what fun. I'm going to have to read this post haste. Yeah. Thanks, Brittany. Andrea.
Hi.
Nice to see you, Andrea. It's been such a long time.
It really has. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back. Thanks for the invite as ever. The first book I want to talk about today is from Milkweed Editions.
My favorite. I love
Yep.
Milkweed.
Housed in beleaguered Minneapolis.
Yeah.
This is The Last Quarter of the Moon. This is a novel, and it's by Zijian, with a translation by Bruce Humes and an introduction by Diane Wilson, the fabulous author of The Seed Keeper. And this is the North American debut of one of China's most celebrated authors, and it's about the lives of a people in northern China that resist the march of modernization, as told through the eyes of a 90-year-old woman. And they definitely are playing their own game, Tom, for sure, and doing it their own way. This is it won China's most prestigious literary award. It's called the Mao Dun Literature Prize, and it sold over 6 million copies in print.
Wow.
In China, it's been translated into 10 languages and was first translated into English in the UK as part of Vintage's Earth series that they have over there. This is part of Milkweed's seed bank titles, which deals with issues of sustainability and environmentalism going forward in our challenged world. And let me see what I'm just going to look here at my notes. This is a nice little contextualizing quote from the intro by Diane Wilson. Today, as the sea rises and our forests burn, the last quarterly of the moon may become the living archive we need to survive. So there you go. This, just because it's fiction doesn't mean that it's not valuable to apply to the real world. And once again, we have a reminder of that here in The Last Quarter of the Moon from Milkweed.
I'm a freelance editor as well. And I often find that there's more truth in the fiction that people write than in the nonfiction. When people write nonfiction or memoirs, and they hold back a lot more than when they're writing fiction, because it's fiction. So, no one's going to know if this is based on, so I find out a lot more about writers and their situations through their fiction, which, isn't true. So yes, Andrea, I think, and writers have been doing that for, since time immemorial, kind of, masking things through fiction. So
and told more poetically, happily.
Right. I'll read anything from Milkweed. Every single book from Milkweed is an absolute gem. So
Yeah.
I forgot that they were in Minnesota also.
Yeah. We're very happy to have them in our bag, as we reps say.
Yeah.
And they've been a long-term publisher client and friends with the PGW folks. So
thank you so much, Andrea. All right, Tom, back to you.
Okay, so I'm gonna have next two books are novels set in the West. So I love a good book that really I love a Western novel. So first book is Scavengers by Kathleen Boland. This is about a young. Opens with a young woman who's living in New York City, B, who she's a commodities trader, and she makes a trade that goes wrong. She takes too much risk. Suddenly her job is collapsing around her. She knows she's about to be fired. She calls her mother, who's living in Salt Lake City, and says, I'm coming to visit. And also I should say that B has been basically paying for the lifestyle of her mother. Her mother is a free spirit. And so things are coming to a head now that she sees that her job is, coming to an end. So she goes to Salt Lake City to see her mom, and she finds out that her mother is involved in she has secrets from her, but she has a man that she's interested in online. She has a map, and she has this online forum of people who are searching for $1 million in buried treasure that an eccentric antiquities dealer has buried, and giving clues that it's buried somewhere in the Western United States. So there's this very active online forum. So B is like, what is going on with my mother? She does not believe this is something she should be doing. But slowly but surely, her mother is definitely going to go to a small town where they're all meeting and follow the clues. And so it's a mother-daughter kind of adventure story in a way. Very funny. It has a little bit, if you've seen Hacks, that's not mother-daughter, but it has that banter of Hacks in the characters, the mother-daughter characters. So it's about going in search of this mythical or not mythical treasure, and about how it brings them together. It's funny, it's sweet, it's heartbreaking, it's beautiful writing about the West. It's about escape. It's really a very accomplished first novel. And it's based on a real life treasure hunt that some of you may know about. That was an eccentric art dealer named Forrest Fenn, who published a memoir that included a 24-line poem of clues to the location of the treasure that inspired a decades-long hunt by people around the country. That there's been a Netflix series. There was a book based on it. And so this is a fictional version of that real life story. Really entertaining. Could not recommend it highly enough. Scavengers.
What a great escape novel.
Yeah.
I think we need these more than ever, the curl up and forget about everything.
It totally takes you to a different place. Yeah. And I need to find out more about that real life Forrest Fenn.
Yeah. I was just thinking how great it would be to have something like that. Let's go on a treasure hunt.
Really, exactly.
Who doesn't like fun right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. A nice juicy novel you can just sink your teeth into and forget about everything else. Love that. We were actually talking with Shannon last week because she had, of course, that I can't think of it right now because I only have Scavengers in my head, but she was talking about a novel that she just said she picked it up, and it's like it calls to you when you put it down and doing other things. And that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's so great.
We need more of those. Yeah,
we do. Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. All right, Brittany.
So my second title is an adult debut from Isabella Banez. She is the YA author of Where the Library Hides and What the River Knows. I inverted that. The first book in the duology is What the River Knows, and then the sequel was What the Library Hides. It was a huge YA duology for us over the last couple of years. And so her adult debut is called Graceless Heart, and it takes place in a alternate history Renaissance Florence. And she, the main character, she's a sculptress and she has a secret. And the Pope is waging a war against magic users, and she has to maybe make a deal to hide her identity and her secret by getting in with one of the most powerful families in Florence who happen to be immortal. And they're sort of think like the Medicis, but with magic and immortality. It's highly creepy at times, but it's like also intense and kind of magical. And it just has this wonderful sense of history woven in. Like you really do feel like you've been transported to medieval Florence. So
I love a great historical novel with all kinds of historical detail. You're sort of on a you've got a little mini theme going here, Brittany.
unintentional.
Yeah. Yeah. But this looks like fun and also like something that will bring her YA readers along, and bring in some new readers, I think.
I would, it is an adult title, so
Yeah.
For younger readers, maybe not, but any adult. Her YA has a very strong adult readership, so I do think that this will deliver to the adult readers for sure. But it came out yesterday. It's got a really great cover and
Beautiful cover.
It's a really strong debut. We've had a lot of YA authors at Macmillan make adult debuts in the last year or so, and I think that this is just a trend that we're going to continue seeing, especially with the boom in romantasy.
Right, and I think that line between young adult and adult is, it's getting sort of thinner every season, and there's so much crossover, which is great, and that I kind of feel like middle grade readers are sort of kind of inching into some of the territory where YA used to be, and YA is kind of, anyway, it's great. It's exciting to see as more subgenres appear, and you wonder how many of them they can conflate, making new words. But it's always interesting and always ever evolving. So that's a gorgeous book, and will definitely do well, I'm sure. Thank you, Brittany. Great, Andrea.
All right, number 2. Moving to Atlantic Crime, the newish imprint from Grove Atlantic, dealing with crime, mystery, and espionage titles. I want to talk about The Cyclist, a D.S. George cross mystery. This is the second in the series that just began this on the inaugural Atlantic Crime List this fall. And Detective George Cross, a neurodivergent detective, returns to solve the case of a mangled body on a construction site, who happened to be a cyclist, that uncovers a life revolving around illicit drugs and other intrigues. And I think I've told you this before when I talked about The Dentist, the first one in the series, but the subject, the title of each book, and the subject refers basically to whoever gets it in the novel. And so this time The Cyclist gets it. In a few months, I'll be talking about The Bookseller. Yes, I will. We love this series, and apparently about 1 million other people love this series, as Tim Sullivan's series here has now sold 1 million copies worldwide.
Wow.
So it's just getting going here. It's just starting to ramp up. but the sales look good, and also the critical attention. The Washington Post named The Dentist, the first one in the series, that published in September, as one of the top 10 mysteries of 2025, which is great, considering that it didn't have a long time to circulate and be reviewed. So that bodes well. Tim Sullivan's work has been compared to P.D. James, which ain't too shabby at all. And Stephen Fry calls Detective George Cross, that character, a perfect detective for a time and all time. So a lot of great reviews and acclaim coming from a wide array of outlets, and can't wait to see how the next books in the series unravel, and how they are received by the indie marketplace. So far, so good.
Well, you guys have been doing an amazing job getting them out there, I think, because I'm seeing them. I'm seeing them all over and hearing about them, and I just think that it's a great time for books like this. Actually, there's renewed interest in this kind of detective fiction. I mean, there's always interest in it, but I think there have been some great, there's great TV, and there's been some excellent adaptations, and there's kind of like a renewed, it comes around again.
Right.
So and this sort of falls right in there, and it's just comfortable, and there's a lot of them, and you can read more of them, and
Yep.
and that's just what people love, and you guys have been doing an amazing job
Well, thank you. Well,
getting them into people's hands. So
yeah, it's nice that Grove Atlantic has collected all of the books that fall into the various genres here: crime, mystery, thrillers, espionage, whatnot, into like their own imprint. It's helpful, and it like presents its own like marketing and publicity opportunities, right? Because they're doing that. And it also draws authors who are looking for a home to that imprint. Also, I failed to mention, you reminded me when you were talking, this is now being developed. They're shooting it right now for a series on BritBox. So
perfect.
Yeah, the detective.
That couldn't be. That's ideal. That's perfect.
Yes, and I don't have BritBox, but
you need to get BritBox.
Well, I have
Mom's nodding.
I love BritBox.
Subscriptions, and I really
I know. Well, you know what? You can jettison a couple of the others that you have in favor of BritBox. It's worth it.
Yeah.
We found that we had to let go of a bunch, but there's so many fantastic adaptations on BritBox. Actually, they're really well done. Some of them are silly, just like any other, like American TV, but most of them are, they're beautifully shot, and it's a lot of this kind of thing. And then there's some like unbelievable standouts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I can't get rid of Criterion, and I'm trying to budget, for the end of the world, and so
that's a good book title right there. Budgeting for the end of the world. I want to see that one pop up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Great. All right, Tom, you're gonna start off we're at the last round of the day already.
Amazing.
Okay.
And I have, so since I won't be here next week, I'm going to talk about Gabriel Tallent's Crux today.
Yes.
On sale next week.
Yeah.
I am too. So this is a book I've been pressing into booksellers' hands for many, many months now. And I love this book so much. So this is about so many things, but let's start with the two main characters, Dan and Tama. So they are an odd couple in a way. They come from different kinds of families that they're each in a way they love their families, but they hate their families for all different kinds of reasons. They are in their senior year of high school, and they really only love two things. They don't love school for sure, even though they're two super smart kids. They love each other in a totally platonic way because one is Dan is straight, Tama is a lesbian, but they love each other and they love climbing. And so the freedom that they feel when they're climbing, makes all the other stuff disappear. And so it's the story of that year. So it's coming of age. It's a beautiful coming of age story. It's set in Joshua Tree and the Mojave. And Gabriel Tallent is one of the very best nature writers in his novels. The landscape totally comes alive. So and I feel like it has a couple of different genres embedded in it. There's certainly coming of age. There's also a sports novel in a way in this book because Tama in particular wants to become a competitive climber. So it's about all of that, and really it's a love story. I see it as a love story between these two kids. But the climbing, and I know nothing about climbing. Literally, when I read this book, I didn't know crux was a climbing term. But I can say from my reading experience, you definitely don't need to know anything about climbing. But it might give you an insight into what the appeal of climbing is and what that must feel like when you're up on those boulders. These characters, I love. So Gabriel Tallent, this has been 8 years since his first book. My Absolute Darling was his first book, which was a huge debut. It was finalist for the LA Times Book Prize. It won the National Book Critics Circle for first novels. Stephen King called it a masterpiece. So we've been waiting for this book to come. And I remember being with Gabriel when we published the first book in 2017. And he told me he wanted to write a buddy, because even then he was way into climbing. He was like, my next book, I want it to be a buddy climbing novel. And at that, when I heard that description, I was like, okay, good luck with that. I'm not sure that'll be for me or not, because a buddy climbing novel, but that's what he's done. I mean, it's such a beautiful, gorgeous, the prose is fantastic. We're comparing it a lot, and I think it's a good comparison to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, because there's so much feeling in this book, as there was in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. That had gaming, this has rock climbing, but really it's these two characters. You will just as My Absolute Darling, you will never forget the character of Turtle, the young girl in that book. You will never forget these two characters. And I have a feeling I will be talking about this book many more times throughout the year, because it's definitely going to be one of the best books of the year. So rush out next week and buy Crux by Gabriel Tallent.
I'm so surprised this book is not out yet and hasn't been out yet for like 6 months. That's one of these that we saw, the booksellers a long time ago and got very excited about, and it's and sort of stuck around, and then suddenly you're like, wow, that book actually hasn't come out yet. But it's very exciting that it's landing finally. Worth all of the hype that you're
Absolutely.
hearing about, and it's coming in with a lot of buzz, but for good reason. I do think climbing is, I'm never ever gonna climb a rock. It's just never gonna happen. I'm not gonna do it. Never had the desire to do it. But I do know a lot of people who are really into it or were into it when they were younger, and I've heard a lot about it. Ironically, my dentist. So and it is, and when you read about it, so vicariously, it's fabulous. I can totally see why people are into it. It's got, there's moments of real transcendence there, and you do get a lot of that with Crux. So it's really great on that level as well.
And I love the way he talks, the way he creates teenagers. They're hyperverbal, they're super smart.
Right.
I love that. That's his teenagers. And I think that was probably him as a teenager as well. They are wise beyond their years, but I love it.
Yeah, excellent. Very exciting. Thank you, Tom. All right, Brittany, what's your last book of the day?
Okay, so my last title is an adult title. It also came out yesterday. All 3 of my books came out yesterday. So that's my, I guess that's my through line. This one is very different from the last 2 I discussed. It's called Lost Lambs by Madeline Cash. It's a debut. And this is probably one of the most unhinged reads I've ever encountered. Lost Lambs, it's sharp, it's witty, it's irreverent. It's about this chaotic suburban family where the parents are in a disastrous open marriage. It reads like a blended concoction of The Bee Sting, the works of Jonathan Franzen, and a Wes Anderson film, kind of all smashed together, but it's told by a Gen Z girl that's steeped in internet irony, which is a lot. Like, I don't know.
It's a really great description. I absolutely can see it now.
Yeah, and I can't even really take credit for that. I read this book and I felt like my brain was mashed potatoes afterwards. It was my colleague Katie who came up with all of that because she's way better at putting things into words than I am. But I fully remember seeing this book during sales conference and thinking, oh yeah, you know, that's going to go on my list. And I hadn't gotten to it yet. And Katie read it and she basically would not stop chatting me in our work chat for 3 days in a row. She was like, you need to read Lost Lambs. You need to read Lost Lambs. You need to read Lost Lambs. And I was like, okay, finally. I read it. And I was messaging her the entire time. And every single time something happened, I would message her and she'd be like, I know, right? I told you, you had to read this book. And it just became this thing between, I would say, mostly the kind of younger millennials and Gen Z on our team where we were really into this book, but then we bullied some of our older coworkers into reading it and they loved it as well. So this is not something that I think is specific to a younger generation. I think anyone can kind of read this and find something in it that would resonate or even just make you pause and think and just go, did I just read that? But it does also read like a movie, so it does have these moments where you're like, did I just watch that? But you obviously didn't because it's a book. But yeah,
I absolutely have to read this book. It sounds really, I love a book that challenges me on, well, not challenges me so that it hurts, but this doesn't sound like it, this doesn't sound like it does. So I would love to read this book. It's going right on
bananas
my list.
I like to say it's bananas in the best way.
Yeah, which is great. Well, on sale yesterday. I really like that cover too. I think it does a lot of heavy lifting. That cover.
FSG usually is good at kind of getting those covers that are going to pull you in. So
yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah.
All right, Andrea, why don't you bring it home for the day?
Okay, thanks. My third book is Algorithm of the Night, Film Writing, 2019 to 2025 by A.S. Hamrah. And this is on the N+1 imprint that is a distribution partner with the fantastic McNally Editions folks. And usually I try to talk about books that are currently in stock at Diesel in Brentwood. But this book has already sold out there. But I am such a huge evangelist for it. And I know that reorders will be quick and easy for special orders, that I feel compelled to talk about this title because it is magisterial. It was just named on December 15th, it was named to the 2025 National Book Critics Circle Award long list, and in criticism, obviously. And that is saying something because the book just published on December 2nd. So it has wowed the critics here. And it's basically just it's basically film criticism as literature and perhaps prophecy. It's just an extraordinary collection of writing. And just to give you an idea of how it's been received by some amazing people, I'm going to read this quote by Lucy Sante, one of my favorites, and I'll be talking about her latest collection of essays a few months down the line. But here she says, A.S. Hamrah rides into film crit lit or excuse me, blah blah. A.S. Hamrah rides into film crit town like the man with no name, delivering rough justice. He tells the truth mordantly and precisely, and is witty, engaging, and painfully accurate, whether he is trashing some Hollywood parade float or salvaging a zero-budget foreign independent nobody else bothered to see. His book manages to be at once chillingly ominous and just optimistic enough for our grim time. So that's pretty amazing. And I really just think that this should be stacked in indies far and wide. It's selling briskly for a criticism book, and there's reason for that. I mean, he's got a light touch, but also, as Sante suggests, knows how to skewer when skewering is necessary.
I'm not surprised that we're sold out of it because, you know, this is our jam, Diesel. But
Yeah.
this book is, I haven't not read it, but it really looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm all in for the film criticism. Usually, it's it tends to be less dry than other criticism and more, you know, there's like more reference points. So, yeah, this looks like a lot of fun, and never worry about talking about titles we're sold out of. We very quickly can get them for you, so they can be ordered post haste.
Well, and I think, you know, sometimes anticipation is okay. You don't need everything like seconds.
Instantly, yes, before you even thought about it. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And I think it's a really good practice to try to wait for some things.
Yes,
because
slow reading.
Slow
reading movement.
A slow everything, you know, like not remember when you had to actually just walk to the store to get the thing that you needed, you know?
Yeah,
like
can I just coin that? The
slow
reading movement. Let's hope. Anyway, I will add too that just briefly that I usually over my holiday break only read books by other publishers that we don't distribute, just because the whole year is about reading manuscripts, etc. But I did dip into these essays during. I broke my own rule, which is okay, because these essays were so great. Really just fantastic, not dry at all.
Oh, that's high praise. In fact, every book we've talked about today is on my list, except for the ones that I've already read, but not enough of them, apparently. That Lost Lambs is definitely going on there, and everything else today, absolutely fantastic. I would just want to mention very quickly that I failed to mention at the top of the hour here about I do have a couple of events that I just want to add to the because your list is not long enough. Tonight we have Paula Lafferty. Actually, will be at the store signing the Once and Future Queen. It's the deluxe limited edition, The Lives of Guinevere, and that's going to be tonight at 6:30 at Diesel. And tomorrow is our big event of the week. We have Laura Dave with Jennifer Garner. Discussing and signing The First Time I Saw Him, which is the prequel to the last thing he told me. So Laura Dave and Jennifer, it is not sold out yet, but very close to it. That's tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. So you heard it here. If you don't want to miss that event, now is the time to buy your ticket, because that is probably going to be sold out. All right. So thank you so much, wonderful publishers reps. As always, you've really brought it, and we appreciate it so much. Fantastic books. And we thank you very much for being here. Tom Benton from Penguin, Brittany Greenway from Macmillan, and Andrea Tetrick filling in for the last minute, I might add, from PGW with some wonderful books. Thank you, Joey, behind the scenes, posting all the covers and links and making everybody aligned in the frame. We will be back again next week. We will have more reps. We will have more fantastic books, and we will have more terrific literary rabbit holes to dive down. So please join us again next week. And in the meantime, everybody, thank you so much, and happy reading. We'll see you then.